Move the Hello everyone. My name is Fatima. We are in Finance 7470 seminar in International Finance class with Dr. Alex. With me, I have Nazmo. Hi, Nazmo.
Hello.
This week's question is, what is purchasing power parity and what is the interest difference? And the other questions, Nazmo and I will be discussing on all the three questions. Let me tell you what exactly is purchasing power parity. It is basically a method for measuring the capacity of one nation, how the manufacturing or production is going as compared to the other nation. It is usually calculated by it's not like just because it's being produced there are no expenses. They also have to see what are the economies involved in it. So what's the cost? So when they compare the most of the cost, that's how the purchasing power parity is used.
Next slide.
Now, if you see, purchasing power parity cannot be used in cannot be applied in every situation or every scenarios. It changes every time. So I'm going to talk about in what situation the purchasing parity does not hold. In economies, like I said, economics, like I said, the theory states that the country's inflation rate should be equal to the price of goods in another country. Just because the rate of inflation is lower, that doesn't mean it's going to be same with another nation like China and America or Canada and in America. If the inflation rate is high, the interest rate is high. If the inflation rate is low, that rate is low. And another thing, the main problem is developed is like people usually compare two countries, which one is developed and one is underdeveloped or developing country. So this theory works well when it's a developed country, but it does not work very well with China. China is known for producing so much, like their manufacturing is insane, like we all know that. So that kind of parity difference cannot be calculated because their taxes, rent and labor, all these things matters, like even in America, but there it's a lot cheaper. So that comparison is not applied in these situations. Can we go on to the next slide, please? One of the examples that I want to do is the cost of Big Mac. Like you see, the cost of Big Mac in Venezuela is $8.35 as compared to Russia is $2.27. Why do you think that's the difference? Because over there, the inflation rate is high, and in Russia, the inflation rate is low, where the labor and everything is available. That is the reason why the price is different from one country to another. Just because it's in developing countries, that doesn't mean it's lower. It's all about what type of economies they have, like rent, taxes, labor costs, and all that. Asbel will talk about in what scenarios it is applied.
All right, thank you, Fatima. So I'll be describing the second part of the question number one, which is under what circumstances can purchasing power parity be applied? So the major use of PPP is as a first step in making inter-country comparisons in real term of gross domestic product and its component expenditures. GDP is the aggregate used most frequently to represent the economic size of any countries, and on per capita basis, the economic well-being of the resident. Calculating the PPP is the first step in the process of converting the level of GDP and its major aggregate expressed in national currencies into a common currency to enable those comparison to be made. Also, PPP plays a vital role and are preferred in analysis carried out by policymakers, then also, let's say, researcher and big private institution, as they don't show major fluctuations in the short term. But in the other case, in the long term, PPP somewhat indicate in which direction the exchange rate is expected to move as the economy develops further. So yeah, going to the question number second question by Fatima.
Thank you, Nazwal. The second question is the interest rate in USA is 4% and it is 2% in Canada. What are the possible reasons for this interest rate differential? And what are the most likely reasons? There are 4 reasons. One is inflation. Inflation rate is high in America as compared to as compared to Canada. So when the inflation rate is high, the interest rate is also high because the investors will know, okay, when the inflation, the rate of inflation fluctuates so often and is usually so high. So the investors want security. That's the reason why that they want to like make sure that they are getting something in return, even when inflation or anything hits. Number 2, debts. If you see, we have more debts as compared to Canada. Canada is a developed country, but it's still smaller as compared to America. The debt rate now is in trillions and trillions of dollars. So when the debt rate is high for any company, the interest rate is high automatically. The banks and any financial institution will give you, but at a higher rate, just like we applying for a loan. If our credit is good, we get lower interest rate. If the credit is bad, we get higher interest rate. It's exactly like that when it comes to like interest rates difference. Third is population. The population of California is more than the population of Canada. The 1/10 population of US is the population of Canada. So another reason for the interest rate is going to be low is like low population, low people asking for loans. That is the reason that it's low. Fourth, economy. Like I said, if the economy fluctuates, if the dollar rate fluctuates too much, of course, the interest rate is going to be high because financial companies, institutions wants to be sure that the company, that they're going to get the money back. If economy is stable, it's smooth, everything is like going straight, yes, they will ask for low interest rate. So these are some of the most likely reasons that the interest rate differences like that between America and India, Canada.
All right. Thank you, Fatima. So now I'll be responding to the question number 3, which is all about the current account deficit and what happens when a country is on current account deficit and what's the relation between the current account and also the financial account. So the current account deficit is when a country resident spend more on imports than they save. Other countries lend funds or invest in the deficit country's business to find that national deficit. The lender country is usually willing to pay for the deficit because it's of its business profit from exports to the deficit country. In short run, I would say the current account deficit is kind of a win-win for both the countries. But of course, when it goes for the long term, it's kind of not that good, and because it's slower, it slows the economic growth. Moving on to the next slide. So what is the relation between current account and the financial account, and what happens when one of the thing goes up and down to the other thing? So the current account on balance of payment measures the trade in goods and service, investment incomes, and current transfer. The financial account measures capital flow, such as like short-term and long-term. For example, long-term investment in building a factory on financial flows, such as buying bonds, depositing money in the bank accounts. Basically, if a country imports goods and service, they need an inflow of capital to be able to pay for them. Suppose USA imports $1 million worth of clothes from China. So USA at that time will need to buy 1 million of Chinese yen, Chinese currency, to get this foreign currency. So we need an inflow of foreign currency in the financial account. I'll just end it by using an example. So if the China deposit 1 million of Chinese yen in US bank, the foreign currency comes into the US, and this is how we can afford the goods. The bank deposit would be counted as short-term capital flow and included in financial account as a credit item. This balance in the debit on our trade in goods. Suppose the USA had a current account deficit because the USA was importing goods from China, but China was not sending capital flow to the US. This would mean the more money is flowing out of US than coming in. This would mean the supply of dollar is greater than the demand and the dollar would fall in value. Also, it will make our export cheaper and imports more expensive. If exports are cheaper, the demand will increase, and conversely, more expensive imports would reduce their quantity. Therefore, the depreciation would improve the current account deficit until it was in equilibrium, I'll say. So that's all it was. Those are the reference. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stop sharing and